Hey there, and welcome to another Kidlit chat. I'm your host, Brooke Van Sickle, and I have the wonderful Julie Bliven here with me. Hey, Julie, how are you?
Hi, Brooke. Great. How are you doing today? Thanks
Just
for having me.
wonderful. Yes, thanks so much for
Good, good.
coming and for doing this. So, for those who are watching who may not have heard of you or are just getting to know you, tell us a little bit about who you are and why you chose to be an editor.
Sure. Well, I have been an editor at Charlesbridge in the Boston area for 13 or so years now, and I just sort of I didn't seek out to be in publishing initially. In undergrad, I ended up doing an independent study my senior year where an English professor started assigning all these contemporary young adult novels. And I started thinking, whoa, I have not been reading outside of really what was assigned in English class or more classics. And I thought, who's publishing these novels and who's writing these novels? This is really exciting stuff. And that sort of led me to the Simmons Children's Literature graduate program, which is a tremendous program. They have an M.F.A. program and they also have an M.A. program, which is a little more practical in terms of interning in the publishing field and doing a lot of analyzing from picture books through YA. And so ending up in that grad program, I was introduced even more so to studying and analyzing picture books, and that sort of continued to cement this interest in publishing. I interned at Houghton Mifflin during that time in school, and then ended up landing a place at Charlesbridge, which was really great because I don't think I was yet prepared to move to New York, but you never know. It's always funny looking back what the different paths you might have taken. So yeah, so that's sort of like logistically how I ended up in publishing, but from a young age, I always loved reading and writing, and I thought I might be a teacher. And I was just always really excited by storytelling. My dad is probably the best oral storyteller I know. So I think it stemmed from that, origin story.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so cool that you weren't actually trying to go there. And now you're at this awesome publisher, Charles Bridge, which if no one's heard of that before, like they're new to the children's book industry,
Sure.
give us a little background on like the types of books you publish.
Sure. So Charlesbridge started as an educational publisher and then about 30 years ago became a trade publisher, which is more of, commercial books, but we still have strong roots in the school and library market. So I'd say we do about 60% nonfiction, 40% fiction, and we publish from board books through young adult. I tend to work more on a few board book, primarily nonfiction, picture books, and middle grade novels. I love that sweet, contemporary, realistic middle grade sweet spot. And I would say that when Charlesbridge decided we used to have our own warehouse, do our own shipping and distribution, but as we continue to grow and just really build more of a name for ourselves, we decided to go with sales and distribution through Penguin Random House. So now they're
Mhm.
casting a much wider net for us, which is really exciting. And we've
Wow.
seen just continued growth based on that change and based on some of the amazing creators we've been able to sign up in the last, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like Charles Bridge has been kind of booming in the last like decade.
Oh, thank
Since I've
you.
been submitting, oh, probably 10 years now. So I've been in like, you know all of the publishers and you watch them grow. But that makes sense if you're in with a bigger publisher, their distribution. I mean, their reach
Yeah,
is they have
right,
all the systems, you know?
right. Their warehouses are like football fields, and but it's wonderful because we can stay independent and publish what we
Yeah.
want, but then we've got this sort of operational, um, smooth sailing operational
Yeah.
guidance.
Yeah, like behind you. That's perfect. I love it.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I mean, you kind of touched on this, when you were talking about how you got into being an editor and publishing in general, but what's your favorite part about children's literature and how do you think that children's books actually impact young readers?
Yeah. I think my favorite thing sort of professionally is sort of, I mean, there's so many favorite parts because there's so many components to, first reading the manuscript, wanting to sign it up, creating the art program, seeing it take shape. There's so many wonderful milestones from start to finish. But I think that what I cherish through what I cherish with each collaboration is that ballet between art and text when we're speaking specifically about picture books. Uh, it just always amazes me the collaborative experience and what it can bring to life in terms of the textual story, and then additionally what comes alive beyond the text in the art. I just love that, again, that ballet between the art and the text. In terms of, what I think it does for readers, just children's books in general, of course, reading at a young age helps expand language and visual learning. But for me, like at this moment in time, I feel like we're living in a world where there's a lot of output, right? Like we're going to post and be on social media, and we're going to play video games, and we're going to, like, the input and the output is very digital. So I love that this, in reading, it's sort of this way of listening that we don't, that we can continue to share with young readers, listening to stories that feel similar to their own experience, or listening to stories that feel different, and just getting to understand how we're all connected as humans and connected through our stories. And I don't know, that was a really long rambling answer, but lots of wonder in this industry.
Yeah, well, I think like as a kid, if you go back to some of the books you read, like I grew up in the Midwest, and so I was always fascinated with like learning about kids in London or in New York, or because it like takes you to these different spots and it puts you in a new perspective that you wouldn't get because it puts you in another person's brain.
It really does. Yes.
Yeah,
Couldn't agree more.
Oh, I love it. So as an editor, you're reading a submission, which I'm sure you do often. But what gets you excited to take on a new project? But what kind of can keep you, or like what kind of obstacles do you have to overcome in order to sign that project?
Yeah. Well, there's so many things that can get me excited. Sometimes you might find a project, a subject matter, or a narrative or a story arc that you really feel is just so new and different. Like, oh, I haven't seen anything like this before. Or you might see a perennial topic, like something about back to school or gardening or multi-generational relationships. And those things are continuing to be done time and time again for a reason, because we as readers want to go back to that familiarity. But what gets me excited is when I see those same themes or subjects just created in a new way, new voice, new structure, just surprising perspective, speaking of perspective, and that gets me really excited. Like, oh yes, we need another story about this human experience, but this is doing it in a new, different way. So that gets me really excited. I think some hurdles in general, like there's so many different hurdles. I think we're living in a time where it's amazing to see how many writers are out there and are getting their work to agents and getting their work to editors, and really, really focusing on the craft and getting it right and workshopping it. So then the hurdle can be just the number of submissions versus how many spots we actually have, right? So I feel like often I'm declining strong writing just because it's not the right fit at the right time, or I don't have the space. I think I also, as editors, we have to be thinking about the best book for the publisher. So I could love something and really want to publish it, but I have to really think about, can Charlesbridge sell this? Are we the best publisher for this book? Are the Charlesbridge readers going to be looking for this type of book from us? And I think that as Charlesbridge grows, we continue to expand that, right? Like, we started to do young adult novels in 2017. We're starting to do graphic novels. We're doing more fiction. So we're expanding that. But I think we also need, any publisher needs to look at what they do well. So for us, we're doing all of that well, but we continue to have that sweet spot for nonfiction. So I'm weighing that in as well. And, I also think for the most part, having been at Charlesbridge for over a decade, I've sort of earned my trust from my publisher. But there are some times where what I think will do well for us maybe My publisher doesn't, so I have to really think of a way, really make sure I want to go to bat for something and really think strategically why I think will do so well, and look at comp titles and really think about that. So hurdles, yes, there can be, but it's also just really thinking about the right book for Charlesbridge at this moment. And also my love for the project, because often, or not often, but these books are going to take up to 2 years. So I have to have the energy and gusto for the project that will sustain me for that, and they always do. It's incredible.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. But it's so true though, because I feel like as authors, sometimes we get so emotionally attached to our stories that sometimes we forget the business end or the sales end of it.
Yes.
And it's not just you and the author who's hanging out. There's like a whole team and
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Mhm.
that's exciting. Let's
Mhm.
switch gears a little bit and talk about you as a writer, because you have been in the writing, side now, because you have a debut picture book out. So what led you to become a published author, and how is that different than being the editor?
Yes. Thank you for asking about that. It's getting easier to talk about wearing both hats. It's kind of strange in the beginning, right? Like I'm supposed to just be the editor.
Yeah.
But I've long wanted to be a writer, which I think, there's so much overlap there in our industry, just when you respect this, the bookmaking, there's so much overlap there for many editors and agents and designers and illustrators doing a little bit of both in some cases. Um, so it just felt like I had gotten to a place where I'd sort of been quietly, secretly writing for a long time. And it felt like, okay, I feel like I could maybe share with an agent, because I had, a bunch of picture books under my belt and some other types of writing. Uh, and so I was just really lucky to connect with an agent that I had a lot of respect for. And she's been such an editorial minded agent, giving me feedback in that way. And it was really exciting and scary to have my first picture book come out, because um, I think what it did for me is really deepen the respect and empathy I have for authors. I feel that in each collaboration, and I'm very careful to remind them that my suggestions are just that, suggestions, and they need to do what feels right to them. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to help them amplify what's already there and give their book the best reading, give their reader the best reading experience. Uh, so I've always felt I've been delicate in that way, but then having been on the other side of it, I feel like that has only increased, like it is hard, wordsmithing and stepping back from your project and really figuring out what is the right, next step or revision to be made. And it also is scary when it goes out into the world, right? No book is for everyone, and that, so you have to kind of remind yourself of that. So anyway, I feel like like I said, it's just sort of deepened my respect and empathy for authors and how personal this experience can be. And I also think it's really shown me how every editor and publisher is so different too, right? I have a few more picture books coming out, so it's just exciting to get to experience how similar we are as bookmakers, and how different we are, and where different strengths lie.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. But I should have asked that first, but tell us the title of it and who published it and a little bit
Oh,
about.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in May of 23, this past spring, Sometimes Shy published with Beaming Books. It's more of sort of like an emotional learning book about sort of understanding how it's really about a boy who really is confidently shy and understands his shyness, and sort of observes the world and how things around us can appear shy too. Like maybe the ocean that ebbs and flows is sometimes shy and sometimes, bold and booming. And I hope that it just encourages any reader to sort of just use that self-awareness to sort of be in awe of the world around us and how we're all sometimes many different things.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Sometimes shy, guys, go and check it out. But lastly, you served as a member of the Children's Book Council Diversity Initiative, which is a super important topic and something we're passionate about too, because we want to get books from different writers from all different backgrounds, locations, experiences. That's like our mission. So, what's something you'd like writers or readers even to know about diverse books that might be surprising or change the way that they think about the impact of this initiative?
Yeah, this is such an important and tough question. And I think that, you know, I think I just would love, or I would like creators specifically, creators writing from their lived experience and often marginalized voices, and all readers and writers to know that the the industry as a whole is making more concerted efforts to publish and market and champion diverse books. And we can say that, and but I think it's important to look at like actual examples of how that's being done. And I can only really speak to Charlesbridge experience. I mean, I am seeing it industry wide, but in terms of, for example, what Charlesbridge has been doing, we have this program called Connections. And you can find it on our website. But our editors offer free 30-minute sessions to authors and illustrators who identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color, BIPOC, to discuss their manuscripts. During the session, we'll offer specific constructive feedback on manuscripts or cover letters, or just talk about the submissions process in general, or just about the industry in general. They're really designed to help refine the manuscript and just prepare it for submissions. It's not necessarily like, hey, Charlesbridge is going to sign this up, or you're submitting to Charlesbridge. It's really about recognizing that historically these writers from these marginalized writers haven't always had the through lines that other writers have. So we're opening that space, creating that space, and then sometimes manuscripts do come out of that we sign up. So it's been a really exciting program. Additionally, I know that Charlesbridge is working hard for not just the editor and the designer to understand what it means to acquire and look for and collaborate with creators of diverse books. It needs to actually be everybody at the company, from sales to marketing, to everybody in-house. So one way that we've seen the fruits of that in-house collaboration at Charlesbridge is recently the Highlights Foundation had a Native Creatives in Community retreat. So it was for Native writers and illustrators, hosted by Tracy Sorrell, who's just an amazing, prolific Native author, and some special guests. But she specifically wanted the faculty at that event to be Karen Voss, who's an editor at Charlesbridge, but also Meg Quinn, who is our VP of sales, so that Tracy could show these examples of how, as a Native writer, she was feeling like Charlesbridge was taking care of her from, editorial through marketing, and what does that look like to write from your lived experience and to get it out into the world in a meaningful way that's getting into all readers' hands, not just those who are seeing the mirror reflected back at them.
Yeah, oh, that's so cool. What an awesome program you guys offer. I didn't know about that.
Yes, Connections. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been doing it?
Oh gosh, that is a great question. I'd say at least 2 years.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, Julie, this has been so wonderful. Thanks for taking the time and for sitting down to do this. And
Thank you,
guys,
Brooke.
Julie's bio is in the description, so her links so you can go learn more are down there. But thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to connecting with so many of your writers.